welcome back to Max Reaction. How are you doing today? Hopefully you're doing good. I'm doing pretty good myself. I'm glad to be here, making a video for you guys and ladies. Anyway, we're going to react to a subscriber requested video, and I've recently reacted to a few Marcos videos, and I made a comment in one of the videos when they were showing Imelda's shoes, and I'm like, man, that's a lot of shoes. Maybe somebody shouldn't own that many shoes when other people, you know, need stuff. And some people took me the wrong way. You know, this is my first time reacting to a Marcos video. It's one I reacted a few months ago. And people have clarified and said back then, in those years, people had everything they needed. You know, that, you know, it wasn't a dire situation. People had food. People had everything they needed. So I apologize if I offended any of you, because I had a few comments that said that I offended people, and it's just me being ignorant and not knowing the situation back then, so I just wanted to apologize. But anyway, this video that we're reacting to has to do with Imelda Marcos, and it's her, I do believe, lawyer that defended her and won her case that was against her, and his name was Gerry Spence, I do believe. And he's known for not losing cases. He's an absolutely winner, you know. He takes cases that he knows is right and that he can win, and then once you do, he wins. So we're gonna see what he has to say about Imelda Marcos. So let's check it out.
Was interested in prosecuting big names at the time. And Giuliani, according to the information that I have, and I think it's solid, promised a conviction of the Marcoses to the State Department, to the Department of Justice.
Wow.
But more than that, there was evidence in the case that that the Philippine government under Aquino wanted to gather up all of this evidence, or gather up all of this property that they believed belonged to the Philippine government, and that Marcos had. And in exchange for that, the United States needed its bases over there. And they entered into what was called the Mutual Legal Assistance Agreement, which was an agreement between these two governments to prosecute the Marcoses. And when Mr. Marcos...
I feel like just there, when they are, they're making a deal, I feel like that should be against the law, you know. That it sounds like they're trying to take Marcos's property and make a deal and say, if you do this, we'll do that for you. And I don't know where the lawyer's going to go. We're going to find out, because we're going to watch and react to the rest of it. But I can see where he's coming from already, and it just doesn't seem right.
They continued to prosecute this widow.
Let me ask you a couple of legal questions to one of the best legal minds in America. Is it tough to try a case when there are two defendants and two different lawyers?
Yes, it's very tough. But in this case, we had Adnan Khashoggi's interests were quite similar to ours. The truth was the same. There wasn't the defenses weren't in conflict, and Mr. Khashoggi was represented by a very fine lawyer by the name of James Lynn.
How long was the jury out?
3-4 days. 3-4 days.
Does that get you a little worried after a time?
What pain lawyers go through. You know, every time I wait for a jury, I say to myself, you know, Lord, just let me get through this one, and I'll never take another case.
And then he takes another one.
Okay, the longer they stayed, the more worried you get.
Oh, you know, and you can't sleep. It's like waiting for a baby that's never born.
Was she a good client?
She was, you know, this is a beautiful woman, and she was the best client I ever had.
Why did she need so many shoes? That was obviously a point. The thought about Imelda was greed.
Well, you know, that the thing that they never really understood about Imelda was that she really wasn't a greedy woman. She was very loved, and she is loved, and she's loved by the masses of people.
That's a high praise.
And the people here, everybody that touched her, saw her, fell in love with her. She is an absolutely marvelous, wonderful human being. She was gifted. You know, she didn't go out and buy this stuff. People gave it to her. Her husband gave it to her. Rich people, princes, people just loved her and showered her with gifts.
I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that.
You know, my wife's got 100 pairs of shoes, I think. So what? But in her case, the Philippines The Philippines
poor country, I guess.
manufacture shoes, and everybody that manufactured shoes had a new model of pair of shoes, wanted to have her have those shoes, wanted her to wear them.
That makes sense.
If you go back and check her closet out, you'd find that most of them don't even fit her.
We'll be right back with Gerry Spence. He hung up another win. He's one of the most successful lawyers in this country. How good is he? The late Edward Bennett Williams, the greatest legal mind I ever knew. When I asked him once, who would you want to defend you if you were in trouble? He said, Gerry Spence. We'll be right back.
Processed, you know, there's just way too much money involved in the whole thing. I think it bothers most people, and it just to defend someone, I guess she has a right to defense, but I just think it's a sad statement on the affairs of the country.
Well, what about the jury, sir? Aren't you impressed that the jury acquitted?
I mean, what can you say? You know, you're faced with a swift-talking, slick man who knows his business, how to defend people. But, you know, I look at someone like Marcos, and I just feel repelled, you know.
Yeah, how do you deal with
Evidence
that
is
feeling,
evidence,
there, which a lot of people
right?
have. Repelled by a country that's impoverished with leaders who appear impoverished, if there is such a word. Leaders who appear to have it all. She may be popular, but America at large does not love her. You'd agree with that?
Well, America as a whole doesn't really know her.
There you
This
go.
man doesn't know her. What he knows.
That's a good point. If you don't know somebody, how can you love somebody, right? Just like, I really don't know. That's why I'm reacting, and you guys are letting me know about all these videos that I should check out, and you guys are commenting all these comments, so I can learn. Knowledge is power, power is knowledge. So this is a bright mind, this lawyer, so he has good, great points that like open my mind up to be like, man, that's how I probably should be thinking.
Never met her, never talked to her, never looked into her eyes,
Right,
never listened to her, doesn't know how she feels, knows nothing about her.
right,
All he knows is what he's read.
right.
And, you know, when I heard about the case, that's what I knew. That's the first, my first response was just like his.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't take this case until I met the woman, talked to her, understood her, listened to her,
Right.
and began to try to understand who she was as a human being.
Makes sense.
And that's what a jury did in this case. They listened to the evidence, not what the newspapers said, because in this case the newspapers had indeed convicted her. And this, as you can see,
Right.
the great majority of Americans
Obviously.
believe that this woman is a bad woman. I happen to know who she is, and she's a very marvelous woman.
Overland Park, Kansas. Hello.
Yes, hi, Mr. Spence.
How do you do?
Congratulations on a great defense. And as far as the other caller, you know, if you have to break the law to enforce it, you know, there's something wrong with our government process. But my question was, if you could elaborate a little more on the Bush-CIA connection to the Marcoses that you mentioned in your opening arguments.
I'd be happy to. There isn't
Can you
any,
do that quickly? I got to get a break, but it is important.
there isn't any question but what Vice President Bush at the time, the Reagan administration knew exactly what was going on, and he was the head of the CIA, you'll recall.
Knew
Right.
what was going on.
Knew what was going on in the Marcos administration and regime. The largest single base of CIA's is in the Philippines. There wasn't anything that the Marcoses did that the CIA didn't know about.
Right.
And you know, I found out as I went into this case and listened to the evidence that there wasn't really any evidence that Mr. Marcos was a crook. There wasn't any evidence that he violated any of the laws. The government brought over here witness after witness,
Wow.
95 witnesses, and showered this court with 300,000 documents. And they had the PCGG, who could do whatever they wanted to with witnesses.
You're saying the
They saw no evidence of
You're
any
saying-
violation of the laws by Mr. Marcos himself.
You're saying the Philippines was like a CIA base?
CIA, there were more. I'm told there are more CIA people in the Philippines than there were at that time, and than any other
Wow.
place in the
Wow.
We'll be back with our remaining moments with Gerry Spence, who hung up a...
I need to find more Gerry Spence interviews on the Marcoses, because he seems like he knows a lot. Like, he spent time with Miss Imelda Marcos. He looked at all the evidence, and there was no evidence against him, according to him. So we need to go search out some more Gerry Spence interviews, and I find it really interesting. And I've had a lot of comments say, man, CIA, they helped bring Marcos down. And Gerry Spence is backing it up, it seems like. But anyway, definitely, I really thank you for this video. I would have never found it in a million years from the subscriber that dropped it on the comments. So if you have any other videos similar to this that you want me to check out, definitely comment and let me know about them. I'm highly interested. This is very fascinating, and we are learning a lot. Anyway, what's your thoughts on the interview? What's your thoughts on Gerry Spence and what he said? Comment down below and let me know. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. But for now, I'll see you next time. Peace, love, happiness. Spread it from you to me.